When people think of Doha, they often picture futuristic skyscrapers, luxury hotels, world-class museums, and some of the most impressive modern architecture anywhere in the Middle East. Many first discovered the city during the 2022 FIFA World Cup, when millions of viewers watched dazzling images of a capital that seemed to appear almost overnight. Yet those first impressions reveal only a small part of the story, because Doha is far more than a collection of glass towers rising above the Arabian Gulf. Today's capital of Qatar is one of the youngest major cities in the world, but its roots stretch back much further than many people realize. Long before highways, financial districts, and ambitious construction projects reshaped the coastline, this was a small settlement where life revolved around the sea. Families depended on fishing, pearl diving, and trade, building a community that survived in one of the harshest climates on Earth through resilience, cooperation, and a deep understanding of the natural environment. Everything began to change during the 20th century. Within the span of just a few decades, Qatar experienced one of the most dramatic economic transformations in modern history. Oil, and later natural gas, created opportunities that allowed an entire nation to reinvent itself. Roads replaced dusty tracks, modern neighborhoods spread across the desert, universities welcomed students from around the world, and a quiet coastal town gradually evolved into a global capital known for business, culture, education, and innovation. Today, Doha is home to people from well over 100 different countries. Although Qatari citizens form a relatively small percentage of the population, the city has become an international meeting point where languages, cultures, traditions, and professional backgrounds come together every day. Walking through its streets means hearing conversations in Arabic, English, Hindi, Urdu, Tagalog, and dozens of other languages, all contributing to the rhythm of a city shaped by remarkable diversity. Despite its rapid growth, Doha has never completely turned away from its heritage. Traditional markets continue operating alongside luxury shopping districts. Historic dhow boats still sail across the bay beneath a skyline filled with modern skyscrapers, and customs that have existed for generations remain an important part of everyday life. The city's identity is built not on choosing between tradition and progress, but on allowing both to exist side by side. What makes Doha especially fascinating is the speed of its transformation. Many cities required centuries to become global centers of commerce, culture, and innovation. Doha accomplished much of that journey within a single lifetime. Residents who remember unpaved streets and modest fishing neighborhoods have also witnessed the construction of world-famous museums, international universities, championship stadiums, and some of the most ambitious urban development projects anywhere in the world. Yet understanding Doha means looking beyond the skyline. It means discovering how ordinary people live in one of the world's wealthiest countries, how tradition continues to influence daily routines, why hospitality remains central to Qatari culture, and how a nation built on centuries of maritime history is preparing for a future that extends well beyond oil and natural gas. To understand how all of this became possible, we first have to return to a time when Doha was little more than a small settlement along the coast of the Arabian Gulf, where life depended not on towering skyscrapers or global business, but on the sea, the desert, and the determination of the people who called this coastline home. Long before Doha became the capital of one of the world's wealthiest nations, the coastline of present-day Qatar was home to small communities that had learned to survive in an environment where every resource mattered. The landscape was dominated by vast stretches of desert, with very little rainfall, almost no permanent rivers, and summer temperatures that often made daily life extremely challenging. Under these conditions, people settled close to the sea because the waters of the Arabian Gulf offered opportunities that the desert could not. For thousands of years, the Gulf served as the region's main highway. Long before modern roads connected cities across the Arabian Peninsula, wooden sailing vessels traveled between the coasts of present-day Qatar, Bahrain, Kuwait, Oman, Iraq, Persia, and India. These maritime routes carried food, textiles, timber, spices, ceramics, and countless other goods that linked distant civilizations through trade. Small coastal settlements depended on these connections not only for commerce, but also for survival, making the sea the center of everyday life. The earliest inhabitants of the Qatari Peninsula adapted to one of the most demanding climates on Earth through remarkable resilience and deep knowledge of their surroundings. Water was carefully managed, food supplies were never taken for granted, and entire communities learned to live according to the rhythm of the seasons. During the hottest months, life slowed considerably, while cooler periods allowed longer journeys across both land and sea. Every aspect of daily life reflected an understanding that survival depended on careful planning and cooperation. Most families earned their living from three essential activities: fishing, trade, and pearl diving. Fishing provided food throughout the year, while trade connected local communities with neighboring ports across the Gulf. Pearls, however, became the region's most valuable resource. Long before oil transformed Qatar's economy, natural pearls were among the most sought-after luxury goods in the world, prized by wealthy families across Europe, Asia, and the Middle East. Pearl diving demanded extraordinary skill, physical endurance, and courage. During the diving season, fleets of traditional wooden boats left the coast carrying crews that would spend months at sea. Divers descended to the seabed repeatedly throughout the day without modern breathing equipment, relying only on experience, lung capacity, and simple tools. Each dive lasted little more than a minute, yet it required searching the ocean floor for oysters before returning quickly to the surface. Hundreds of dives could be completed in a single day, making pearl diving one of the most physically demanding occupations in the region. Success was never guaranteed. A diver might open dozens or even hundreds of oysters before discovering a single pearl of significant value. Storms, strong currents, dangerous marine life, and exhaustion added constant risks to every expedition. Even so, the pearl trade supported thousands of families across the Gulf for generations and became the foundation upon which many coastal settlements, including the future Doha, built their economies. Life on land remained modest. Homes were constructed from locally available materials such as coral stone, limestone, mud, and palm trunks, with thick walls helping protect families from the intense summer heat. Narrow streets created shade throughout the day, while courtyards provided privacy and improved air circulation. Settlements were compact, practical, and carefully adapted to the climate, reflecting centuries of experience rather than architectural ambition. Society during this period was built around extended families and tribal communities. Loyalty, mutual support, and hospitality played essential roles in everyday life because survival often depended on cooperation. Travelers crossing the desert or arriving by sea could expect to receive food, water, and shelter, traditions that eventually became deeply rooted cultural values and remain important parts of Qatari society today. Religion also shaped daily routines long before Doha emerged as a major city. Islam provided both spiritual guidance and the foundation for community life, influencing education, family relationships, business practices, and social customs. Small neighborhood mosques served not only as places of worship, but also as gathering spaces where important decisions were discussed and community ties were strengthened. Although the region often appears isolated on modern maps, Qatar was never completely disconnected from the outside world. Merchants regularly sailed to ports throughout the Gulf, Persia, East Africa, and the Indian subcontinent, bringing back goods, ideas, languages, and cultural influences that gradually became part of local life. Even the smallest settlements participated in networks of international trade that had existed for centuries. By the beginning of the 19th century, several coastal communities had grown into modest trading centers, and one settlement along the eastern coast of the peninsula was beginning to attract increasing attention. Its natural harbor offered protection for fishing boats and merchant vessels. Its location supported growing commercial activity, and its population steadily increased as more families settled near the shoreline. That settlement would eventually become Doha, a city whose future no one at the time could possibly have imagined. Although people had lived along Qatar's coastline for centuries, the settlement that would eventually become Doha remained relatively small for much of its early history. It developed gradually rather than through a single defining event, growing as more fishing families, merchants, and pearl divers settled around its natural harbor. Protected waters made it an ideal place for traditional wooden boats, while its location along established maritime trade routes allowed commerce to flourish with neighboring ports across the Arabian Gulf. The earliest written references to Doha date back to the 18th century, when European navigators and regional traders began documenting settlements along the Qatari coast. At the time, Doha was known primarily as a modest fishing and pearling community, where life revolved almost entirely around the sea. Homes clustered close to the shoreline, boats lined the harbor, and nearly every family depended in some way on maritime activities for its livelihood. As the 19th century progressed, Doha became increasingly important within the region. The pearl industry expanded, trade intensified, and more families chose to settle near the harbor. Merchants established stronger commercial relationships with Bahrain, Kuwait, Oman, Persia, and the ports of Western India, allowing goods, ideas, and cultures to move regularly through the growing settlement. Although Doha remained relatively small by international standards, it was becoming one of the most active communities on the Qatari peninsula. Like many settlements along the Gulf, Doha experienced periods of instability. Competition over trade routes, regional conflicts, and changing political alliances occasionally disrupted daily life. Throughout the 19th century, the Gulf became an area of strategic interest for both regional powers and European empires seeking greater influence over maritime commerce. Despite these challenges, Doha continued to recover and expand, supported by the determination of the families who depended on its harbor. During the late 19th century, the Ottoman Empire extended its influence into parts of the Arabian Peninsula, including Qatar. Ottoman officials established a presence in Doha, constructing administrative buildings and military facilities while attempting to strengthen imperial authority in the region. Although Ottoman control remained relatively limited compared to other parts of the empire, this period introduced new political structures that would influence the city's development for several decades. At the beginning of the 20th century, another major political shift reshaped Qatar's future. Following the decline of Ottoman influence, Britain expanded its role throughout the Gulf in order to protect important maritime trade routes connecting Europe with India. Qatar eventually became a British protectorate, allowing local rulers to maintain authority over domestic affairs while Britain assumed responsibility for foreign relations and defense. This arrangement brought greater political stability during a period when regional security had become increasingly important. While these political changes unfolded, daily life in Doha remained centered on pearling, fishing, and trade. The town itself was still relatively modest, consisting of low-rise coral stone houses, narrow streets designed to provide shade from the intense sun, neighborhood mosques, marketplaces, and a busy waterfront where traditional dhow boats departed each morning. There were no skyscrapers, paved highways, or large commercial districts. The skyline was defined by minarets, wind towers, and the masts of wooden sailing vessels anchored in the harbor. Everything changed during the early decades of the 20th century when the global pearl industry entered a severe decline. The development of cultured pearls in Japan dramatically reduced international demand for natural Gulf pearls, causing prices to collapse across the region. Communities that had relied on pearling for generations suddenly faced enormous economic hardship. Many families lost their primary source of income, trade slowed significantly, and Doha entered one of the most difficult periods in its history. For a time, the city's future appeared deeply uncertain. Fishing continued to support local communities, but it could not replace the prosperity that pearling had once provided. Economic opportunities became increasingly limited, and many wondered whether Doha would ever regain the importance it had achieved during the height of the pearl trade. Few people could have imagined that beneath the desert surrounding the city lay resources capable of transforming not only Doha, but the entire country. Within only a few decades, the discovery of oil, followed later by one of the largest natural gas reserves ever found anywhere in the world, would completely redefine Qatar's future. A quiet coastal town that had struggled through economic decline was about to begin one of the fastest and most extraordinary urban transformations in modern history. The discovery of oil marked the beginning of a completely new chapter in Qatar's history. For generations, the country's economy had depended almost entirely on fishing, pearl diving, and regional trade, leaving communities vulnerable to changing markets and difficult environmental conditions. The collapse of the pearl industry had demonstrated just how fragile that system could be. By the middle of the 20th century, however, the future of the country was about to change in ways that few people could have imagined. Oil was first discovered in Qatar during the late 1930s, although large-scale production did not begin until after the Second World War. Once exports started, the effects were almost immediate. Revenue from oil gave the country resources it had never possessed before, allowing the government to invest in roads, electricity, healthcare, education, housing, and public services. Projects that would once have seemed impossible suddenly became achievable, and the foundations of a modern state began to take shape. For the people living in Doha, daily life changed rapidly. Streets that had once consisted mainly of sand gradually became paved roads. Electricity reached neighborhoods that had previously relied on oil lamps. Modern schools opened their doors to growing numbers of students, and hospitals introduced medical services that had not previously been available. The city itself expanded well beyond its original waterfront settlement as entirely new residential districts began to appear. The pace of development accelerated even further during the 1960s and early 1970s. Government institutions grew, public infrastructure improved, and the population steadily increased as workers from neighboring countries arrived to help build the nation's future. Engineers, architects, teachers, doctors, and skilled laborers became part of an increasingly international workforce that would eventually transform Doha into one of the most diverse cities in the region. A defining moment came in 1971 when Qatar declared its independence and officially became a sovereign nation. With full control over its own natural resources, the country gained the ability to shape its future according to its own priorities. Rather than simply exporting raw materials, Qatar began investing heavily in long-term national development, creating plans that extended far beyond immediate economic growth. The next great turning point came with the discovery and development of the North Field, one of the largest natural gas reserves ever identified anywhere in the world. Located beneath the waters of the Arabian Gulf, this enormous field contains an extraordinary volume of natural gas that fundamentally changed Qatar's economic future. While oil had already brought prosperity, natural gas provided a foundation for sustained growth that would continue for decades. During the 1990s, Qatar invested billions of dollars in facilities capable of producing liquefied natural gas, commonly known as LNG. This technology made it possible to transport natural gas across oceans to countries around the world, transforming Qatar into one of the leading energy exporters on the planet. Today, Qatari LNG reaches markets throughout Asia, Europe, and beyond, making energy exports one of the country's most important economic pillars. The wealth generated by these resources was not directed solely toward expanding the energy industry. Instead, enormous investments were made across nearly every aspect of society. New highways connected growing districts of the capital, modern airports welcomed increasing numbers of international travelers, advanced hospitals expanded healthcare, universities attracted students from around the world, and large-scale cultural institutions began reshaping Doha into an international center for education, research, and the arts. Perhaps the most remarkable aspect of this transformation is how quickly it occurred. Within the lifetime of many current residents, Doha evolved from a modest coastal town into a modern capital recognized around the world for its architecture, infrastructure, and ambitious development projects. Older generations still remember neighborhoods where unpaved roads stretched toward the sea and traditional dhow boats dominated the harbor, while younger Qataris have grown up surrounded by skyscrapers, museums, metro lines, and some of the most advanced urban infrastructure in the Middle East. Despite this extraordinary prosperity, Qatar has consistently emphasized the importance of preparing for a future beyond oil and natural gas. National development strategies have focused on diversifying the economy through investments in finance, technology, education, healthcare, tourism, sports, renewable energy, and scientific research. Rather than relying indefinitely on natural resources, the country has worked to build new industries capable of supporting future generations long after energy exports become less significant. That vision is visible throughout Doha today. Tower cranes continue reshaping the skyline. Research centers collaborate with international universities, technology companies establish regional headquarters, and entirely new districts emerge from land that only a few years earlier was empty desert. The transformation that began with the discovery of oil has grown into something much larger than an economic success story. It has become the foundation upon which Qatar is attempting to build one of the most ambitious urban and national development projects of the 21st century. Arriving in Doha for the first time often feels very different from arriving in most major cities because the transformation begins almost immediately after leaving the airport. Wide highways stretch across the landscape. Carefully maintained parks line the roads. Modern skyscrapers rise above the coastline, and nearly every part of the city reflects decades of deliberate urban planning. Rather than growing gradually over centuries, much of modern Doha has been designed according to long-term development plans that continue to shape the capital today. One of the first things visitors notice is how spacious the city feels. Wide boulevards separate residential districts from commercial centers. Landscape medians are filled with palm trees and flowering plants, and modern architecture is given room to stand on its own rather than competing for space with neighboring buildings. Even in the busiest parts of the city, there is a strong sense of order that distinguishes Doha from many other large capitals in the region. The skyline has become one of the city's defining features. Along the waterfront, dozens of skyscrapers rise above Doha Bay, each designed with a different architectural identity. Glass towers reflect the changing colors of the Arabian Gulf throughout the day, while geometric facades, curved silhouettes, and intricate patterns often draw inspiration from traditional Islamic design. Rather than following a single architectural style, the skyline represents decades of experimentation, with each new building contributing its own interpretation of what a modern Middle Eastern city can become. Despite its impressive architecture, Doha rarely feels overcrowded. With a population far smaller than many global capitals, the city offers an unusual balance between urban development and open space. Public parks, landscaped plazas, waterfront promenades, and wide pedestrian areas provide room for people to walk, exercise, or simply enjoy the outdoors during the cooler hours of the day. This careful balance between construction and public space has become one of the defining characteristics of the capital's modern design. Cleanliness is another feature that quickly becomes apparent. Streets are meticulously maintained, public spaces are carefully landscaped, and city services operate with remarkable efficiency. Parks, sidewalks, beaches, and transportation facilities are kept in excellent condition, reflecting the importance placed on creating a comfortable environment for both residents and visitors. This attention to detail extends throughout the city and contributes significantly to Doha's reputation as one of the cleanest capitals in the world. The climate naturally influences almost every aspect of daily life. During the summer months, daytime temperatures frequently exceed 100 degrees Fahrenheit, making outdoor activity difficult for much of the afternoon. As a result, many residents organize their schedules around the weather, completing outdoor errands earlier in the morning or waiting until after sunset, when temperatures become considerably more comfortable. Air-conditioned shopping malls, office buildings, museums, and public transportation systems play an essential role in everyday life, allowing the city to function smoothly even during the hottest periods of the year. Transportation reflects Doha's modern approach to urban development. Multi-lane highways connect different parts of the city with remarkable efficiency, while the Doha Metro has become one of the newest and most advanced rapid transit systems in the world. Its stations combine contemporary engineering with architectural details inspired by traditional Qatari design, creating a transportation network that is both highly functional and visually distinctive. Together with an expanding bus network and modern road infrastructure, the metro has transformed the way residents move throughout the capital. Walking through Doha also reveals how much attention has been given to public architecture. Museums, government buildings, cultural institutions, sports venues, and even metro stations have been designed by internationally recognized architects, giving the city an unusually high concentration of landmark buildings. Rather than treating architecture as purely functional, Doha has embraced it as a way of expressing national identity while presenting a vision for the future. At the same time, modern development has not erased the city's connection to its past. Traditional dhow boats continue to sail across the bay. Historic markets remain active only a short distance from financial districts, and local customs continue to influence daily life despite the rapid pace of modernization. These elements coexist naturally within the same urban landscape, creating a city that acknowledges its history while confidently looking ahead. As visitors spend more time exploring Doha, they begin to realize that its greatest achievement is not simply the construction of impressive buildings or modern infrastructure. The city's real accomplishment lies in the way it has combined ambitious development with long-term planning, creating an environment where innovation, public space, cultural heritage, and quality of life all contribute to a distinctly modern capital. Yet to truly understand Doha, it is necessary to look beyond its skyline and explore the neighborhoods where people live, work, study, and experience everyday life in one of the fastest changing cities of the 21st century. One of the most fascinating aspects of Doha is that no single neighborhood can fully represent the city. Although the capital has grown remarkably quickly, each district has developed its own identity, creating a collection of neighborhoods that reflect different chapters of Qatar's transformation. Some preserve the country's cultural heritage, others showcase ambitious urban planning, while several have become centers of business, education, or international life. Exploring Doha means moving between places that feel distinctly different while remaining connected by the same vision for the city's future. Perhaps no area is more closely associated with modern Doha than West Bay. This district forms the city's financial and commercial center, where many of Qatar's tallest buildings stand along the waterfront overlooking the Arabian Gulf. International banks, government ministries, luxury hotels, multinational corporations, and regional headquarters occupy many of the skyscrapers that define Doha's skyline. During the working day, thousands of professionals arrive from across the city, filling offices that support one of the fastest-growing economies in the region. Despite its concentration of high-rise buildings, West Bay is more than just a business district. Luxury hotels welcome visitors from around the world, restaurants serve cuisine from nearly every continent, and landscape public spaces provide places for residents to relax after work. As evening approaches, the glass towers begin reflecting the colors of the sunset before gradually lighting up against the night sky, creating one of Doha's most recognizable views. Only a short distance away lies Mshireb, downtown Doha, one of the country's most ambitious urban redevelopment projects. Built on the site of one of the city's oldest neighborhoods, Mshireb was designed to reconnect modern architecture with traditional Qatari urban planning. Streets are planned with pedestrians in mind. Shaded walkways help reduce the effects of the desert heat, and buildings incorporate architectural elements inspired by historic homes while using some of the most advanced sustainable technologies available today. Rather than creating another district dominated by skyscrapers, planners focused on building a neighborhood where people could comfortably live, work, shop, and spend their free time without relying entirely on cars. Museums, cultural institutions, cafes, offices, apartments, and public squares exist side by side, making Mshireb one of the clearest examples of how Doha is attempting to shape its future through thoughtful urban design rather than rapid construction alone. Another completely different experience can be found at the Pearl Qatar, a large artificial island built along Doha's coastline. Developed on reclaimed land extending into the Arabian Gulf, the island combines luxury residences, marinas, waterfront promenades, shopping districts, and restaurants into one of the city's most prestigious addresses. Walking through the Pearl, visitors encounter elegant apartment buildings overlooking private yacht harbors, carefully landscaped public spaces, and wide pedestrian streets designed for leisurely evening walks along the water. The Pearl also reflects Doha's increasingly international character. Residents from dozens of different countries live here, creating a cosmopolitan atmosphere where English is heard almost as frequently as Arabic. Restaurants offer everything from traditional Middle Eastern cuisine to Italian, Japanese, French, Indian, Korean, and Latin American dishes, illustrating the remarkable diversity that has become part of everyday life throughout much of the city. North of Doha, another entirely new city is continuing to take shape. Lusail city represents one of the largest urban development projects in the Middle East, built almost entirely from the ground up within the past 2 decades. Designed as a smart city, Lusail incorporates advanced transportation systems, energy-efficient buildings, public parks, waterfront districts, and residential neighborhoods intended to accommodate hundreds of thousands of future residents. It was also one of the principal locations for the 2022 FIFA World Cup, introducing millions of viewers to Qatar's newest urban center. While these districts showcase Doha's future, the city's past remains alive in Souq Waqif, one of the oldest and most beloved neighborhoods in the capital. Carefully restored using traditional building techniques, the market preserves the atmosphere of historic Qatar through its narrow streets, courtyards, and stone buildings. Here, visitors find spice shops, textile merchants, cafes, restaurants, falcon stores, traditional handicrafts, and local businesses that continue practices passed down through generations. Although the surrounding city has transformed dramatically, Souq Waqif remains one of the places where Doha's cultural heritage is experienced most directly. Nearby, Qatar Cultural Village serves as one of Qatar's leading centers for art, music, literature, and public events. Designed to celebrate both local traditions and international culture, Qatar hosts concerts, film festivals, exhibitions, theatrical performances, and educational programs throughout the year. Its architecture combines traditional design with contemporary public spaces, creating an environment where cultural exchange has become part of everyday life. Visitors can explore galleries, attend performances, relax in cafes overlooking the sea, or simply walk through one of the city's most distinctive public spaces. Education has also become an important part of Doha's identity through Education City, an extraordinary campus developed by the Qatar Foundation. Covering thousands of acres, it brings together branch campuses of leading international universities, research institutes, libraries, laboratories, and innovation centers. Students from around the world study engineering, medicine, business, international relations, computer science, and many other disciplines, making the district one of the region's most important centers for higher education and scientific research. Each of these neighborhoods tells a different story about Doha. Some represent centuries of history, while others have appeared within a single generation. Some preserve traditions that date back to the era of pearl diving, while others focus entirely on innovation, sustainability, and the future. Together, they demonstrate that Doha is far more than a skyline of impressive buildings. It is a city made up of diverse communities, each contributing its own identity to a capital that continues to evolve while remaining deeply connected to the culture from which it emerged. After exploring Doha's neighborhoods, it becomes much easier to understand that the city's identity is shaped not only by its architecture or economic success, but by the people who live here every day. Modern Doha is home to one of the most internationally diverse populations anywhere in the world. Citizens of Qatar make up only a small percentage of the total population, while the overwhelming majority of residents have come from other countries to work, study, build businesses, or raise their families. This remarkable diversity influences nearly every aspect of daily life, creating a city where cultures from every continent exist side by side. Walking through Doha means hearing conversations in dozens of languages within only a few minutes. Arabic remains the country's official language and is spoken throughout government institutions and by Qatari families, while English serves as the common language connecting people from different backgrounds. At the same time, Hindi, Urdu, Malayalam, Tagalog, Bengali, Nepali, Turkish, Persian, French, and many other languages are part of the everyday soundscape, reflecting the extraordinary international community that has developed here over the past several decades. Most residents begin their day early. Before sunrise, highways gradually fill with commuters heading toward business districts, construction sites, hospitals, universities, schools, government ministries, and commercial centers located across the city. Because Doha has expanded rapidly over a relatively large area, commuting has become a normal part of daily life. Although the city's modern road network and metro system help make transportation remarkably efficient compared to many metropolitan areas of similar size, the workforce itself reflects the city's international character. Engineers from Europe collaborate with architects from Asia, medical professionals from North America work alongside specialists from the Middle East, entrepreneurs launch companies with partners from several different countries, and multinational corporations bring together employees representing dozens of nationalities under the same roof. This global workforce has become one of Doha's defining characteristics and plays a central role in the country's continued economic development. For Qatari families, tradition continues to shape everyday routines despite the country's rapid modernization. Family relationships remain exceptionally important, with parents, grandparents, siblings, and extended relatives maintaining close contact throughout their lives. Family gatherings are common, particularly during weekends and religious holidays, when several generations often come together for long meals and conversations. Respect for older family members remains deeply rooted in society, and their advice continues to carry significant influence within many households. Hospitality occupies a special place in Qatari culture. Welcoming guests with generosity has long been considered a matter of honor, a tradition that developed during centuries when travelers crossing the desert depended upon the kindness of others for food, water, and shelter. Although daily life has changed dramatically since those times, the custom of warmly receiving visitors continues to define social interactions today. Guests are typically welcomed with Arabic coffee, dates, and refreshments before conversations begin, reflecting values that have remained remarkably consistent across generations. Religion also plays an important role in shaping the rhythm of everyday life. Islam influences many aspects of society, including family traditions, business practices, education, public holidays, and community events. Throughout the day, the call to prayer can be heard from mosques across the city, providing familiar moments that structure daily routines for many residents. While Doha is an international city welcoming people from many different backgrounds and faiths, Islamic traditions remain an essential part of the country's cultural identity. One of the most noticeable characteristics of life in Doha is the strong emphasis placed on safety. The city consistently ranks among the safest in the world, with low crime rates contributing to a strong sense of security for both residents and visitors. Families regularly spend evenings walking through parks, along the Corniche, or in shopping districts long after sunset, and it is common to see children playing outdoors while parents gather nearby. This atmosphere has become one of the reasons many international professionals choose to relocate to Qatar with their families. Climate naturally shapes the daily schedule. During the hottest months of the year, outdoor activities are often limited to the early morning or evening hours, while much of the afternoon is spent indoors in air-conditioned homes, offices, shopping malls, museums, and cultural centers. As temperatures begin to fall after sunset, parks, public spaces, restaurants, and waterfront promenades gradually fill with people enjoying the cooler weather. In many ways, the city comes alive again during the evening, when social life becomes one of the most active parts of the day. Education is another defining feature of modern Doha. Families place great importance on providing children with high-quality schooling, and the city offers an impressive range of educational opportunities. Alongside public schools, Doha is home to numerous international schools following British, American, French, Indian, and other educational systems, reflecting the diverse backgrounds of the families who live here. Universities and research institutions continue attracting students from around the world, reinforcing Qatar's ambition to become a regional center for education and innovation. Perhaps what surprises many visitors most is how naturally tradition and globalization coexist throughout everyday life. A Qatari family dressed in traditional clothing may be enjoying dinner at a contemporary restaurant alongside professionals from Europe, students from Asia, and tourists visiting from every corner of the world. Luxury shopping malls stand only minutes away from traditional markets, while cutting-edge business districts continue to grow alongside neighborhoods where customs that have existed for generations remain part of ordinary life. Rather than replacing one another, these different worlds have become part of the same city, creating a version of Doha that is both deeply rooted in its heritage and confidently focused on the future. To understand Doha beyond its modern skyline, it is worth stepping away from the glass towers and business districts and spending time in a place where the country's traditions continue to shape everyday life. That place is Souq Waqif, one of the oldest parts of the city and one of the few neighborhoods where the atmosphere of historic Qatar has been carefully preserved. Although many of the buildings have been restored over the years, the market continues to function much as it has for generations, serving both local residents and visitors who come here not only to shop, but to experience an important part of Qatari culture. The history of Souq Waqif dates back more than a century, when merchants gathered near the dry riverbed that once crossed this part of Doha. Traders arriving by camel from the desert met fishermen and sailors coming from the coast, exchanging livestock, spices, textiles, food, and household goods. As trade expanded, the market gradually became one of the most important commercial centers in the region, connecting local communities with merchants traveling throughout the Arabian Gulf. Walking through the market today reveals a completely different pace from the surrounding financial districts. Narrow streets shaded by traditional buildings wind between small shops, open courtyards, cafes, and workshops where many products are still made by hand. Rather than rushing from one destination to another, visitors often spend hours wandering through the market, discovering something new around every corner while enjoying an atmosphere that feels remarkably relaxed despite the constant activity. Many of the shops specialize in products that have been part of everyday life in Qatar for generations. Traditional clothing, woven fabrics, handmade jewelry, perfumes, spices, decorative lanterns, ceramics, woodwork, and handcrafted souvenirs fill the market's countless storefronts. Alongside these businesses are small family-owned shops where merchants have spent decades serving customers, preserving skills and knowledge that have been passed from one generation to the next. One of the market's most distinctive features is the Falcon Souq, reflecting a tradition that remains deeply respected throughout Qatari society. Falcons have occupied an important place in the culture of the Arabian Peninsula for centuries, originally serving as highly valued hunting companions capable of helping families find food in the harsh desert environment. Although hunting is no longer central to everyday life, falconry continues to be celebrated as an important cultural tradition. Specialized shops provide equipment, training, and care for these remarkable birds, while a dedicated falcon hospital nearby offers advanced veterinary treatment that attracts owners from across the Gulf. Another unforgettable part of the market is its collection of spice merchants. Their shops display colorful rows of saffron, cardamom, cinnamon, cloves, dried limes, turmeric, cumin, rose petals, and countless traditional spice blends that fill the narrow streets with rich aromas. Many of these ingredients remain essential to Qatari cooking, while others reflect centuries of trade connecting the Arabian Peninsula with Persia, India, East Africa, and the wider Middle East. Perfume also occupies a special place in local culture. Throughout Souq Waqif, small boutiques offer traditional Arabic fragrances created from oud, amber, musk, rose, sandalwood, and other natural ingredients. Unlike many modern perfumes produced in large factories, these fragrances are often blended by experienced perfumers who prepare individual combinations according to each customer's preferences. The appreciation for fine perfume remains deeply rooted in Gulf culture, where fragrance is considered an important part of hospitality and personal presentation. Hospitality itself is perhaps the tradition most immediately noticeable to visitors. Shopkeepers frequently greet customers with genuine warmth, inviting them to browse without pressure while offering tea or Arabic coffee during longer conversations. These gestures are not viewed as sales techniques, but as natural expressions of respect and welcome, continuing customs that developed over centuries when generosity toward travelers was considered an essential social responsibility. As evening approaches, Souq Waqif takes on an entirely different atmosphere. Families begin arriving after sunset. Restaurants place tables throughout the market's open courtyards. Musicians occasionally perform traditional melodies, and the narrow streets become filled with both local residents and visitors enjoying the cooler temperatures. Rather than serving only as a tourist attraction, the market remains an active social gathering place where people meet friends, celebrate family occasions, and spend relaxed evenings together. Perhaps that is what makes Souq Waqif so important to Doha. It demonstrates that even as Qatar continues investing in cutting-edge technology, ambitious architecture, and modern urban development, the country remains deeply connected to traditions that have shaped life on the Arabian Peninsula for centuries. Within only a few minutes' walk, visitors can move from one of the world's most modern skylines into a marketplace where the customs, craftsmanship, and hospitality of historic Qatar continue to thrive as part of everyday life. After exploring Souq Waqif, it becomes clear that one of the best ways to understand Doha is through its food. Qatari cuisine reflects the country's history, geography, and traditions, combining influences that arrived over centuries through trade across the Arabian Gulf. Merchants sailing between Arabia, Persia, India, East Africa, and the wider Middle East brought not only goods but also spices, cooking techniques, and recipes that gradually became part of local culinary traditions. As a result, modern Qatari cuisine tells the story of a nation whose identity has always been shaped by both the sea and international trade. For generations, daily meals were prepared using ingredients that could withstand the region's demanding climate. Rice, dates, fish, lamb, chicken, dairy products, and aromatic spices formed the foundation of most dishes, while fresh vegetables became more widely available as agriculture and trade developed. Although today's supermarkets import food from every corner of the world, many traditional recipes continue to rely on the same ingredients that sustained families long before the discovery of oil. One of Qatar's most recognizable national dishes is makbuz, a fragrant rice dish prepared with lamb, chicken, or seafood, and seasoned with a carefully balanced mixture of spices including cardamom, cinnamon, cloves, black pepper, turmeric, and dried lime. The meat is slowly cooked until tender before being served over rice that absorbs the rich flavors of the broth and spices. Makbuz remains one of the country's most popular family meals and is commonly prepared during holidays, celebrations, and gatherings where several generations share the same table. Another traditional favorite is hares, a simple yet deeply satisfying dish made from wheat and slow-cooked meat. The ingredients are cooked together for many hours until they form a smooth, creamy consistency that has been enjoyed across the Arabian Peninsula for centuries. Hares is especially popular during Ramadan and other important religious occasions, when large quantities are prepared for family meals and community gatherings. Given Qatar's long relationship with the sea, seafood naturally occupies an important place in local cuisine. Fresh hammer, kingfish, shrimp, crab, and other seafood are served in homes and restaurants throughout the country, often grilled over charcoal or seasoned with traditional Gulf spices. Although modern Doha offers virtually every international cuisine imaginable, many residents continue to appreciate the simple preparation of freshly caught fish, honoring a maritime tradition that stretches back long before the city's rapid modernization. Dates remain one of the most important foods in Qatari culture. For centuries, they provided travelers and Bedouin communities with a reliable source of energy, and today they continue to symbolize hospitality throughout the Gulf. Visitors are frequently welcomed with a plate of premium dates alongside a small cup of Arabic coffee, creating a tradition that remains one of the first experiences many guests have when entering a Qatari home or attending an important gathering. Arabic coffee, known locally as gawa, holds a special place within Qatari society. Unlike the stronger coffee served in many parts of the world, gawa is lightly roasted and flavored with cardamom, sometimes accompanied by saffron or cloves depending on regional traditions. It is poured into small handleless cups and served according to customs that emphasize respect, generosity, and hospitality. The act of serving coffee follows traditions that have been observed across the Arabian Peninsula for generations, making it much more than an ordinary beverage. While traditional cuisine remains an important part of daily life, Doha has also become one of the Middle East's most international dining destinations. The city's remarkably diverse population has created demand for restaurants representing cuisines from every continent. Within only a few city blocks, it is possible to enjoy Lebanese, Turkish, Persian, Indian, Japanese, Korean, Italian, French, Mexican, Ethiopian, Chinese, or Brazilian food, often prepared by chefs who have brought authentic recipes directly from their home countries. This extraordinary culinary diversity reflects the international nature of Doha itself. With residents representing well over 100 nationalities, restaurants have become places where cultures meet naturally through food. Business colleagues from different continents share lunch together. Families explore cuisines from around the world, and visitors quickly discover that the city's dining scene extends far beyond traditional Gulf cooking. Dining in Doha is rarely rushed. Particularly during the evening, Meals often become long social occasions where family members and friends gather to talk long after the food has been served. Restaurants remain busy well into the night, especially on weekends, when several generations frequently dine together while children play nearby. The meal itself becomes only one part of a much larger social experience centered on spending time together. Perhaps that is what makes food in Doha especially memorable. It reflects both the country's remarkable transformation and its enduring traditions. Ancient recipes continue to be prepared alongside modern international cuisine. Hospitality remains just as important as the food itself, and every shared meal reflects values that have been passed from one generation to the next. In many ways, sitting down for dinner in Doha offers a deeper understanding of the city than any landmark could provide, revealing a society that continues to welcome the world while remaining deeply connected to its own cultural roots. No place reflects Doha's relationship with the sea more clearly than the Corniche. Stretching for several miles along the curve of Doha Bay, this waterfront promenade has become one of the city's most recognizable public spaces and one of the first places both residents and visitors choose to experience the capital. Throughout the day, people come here to exercise, meet friends, enjoy the views, or simply spend time outdoors, while after sunset the Corniche becomes one of the liveliest parts of the entire city. The Arabian Gulf has always been central to Qatar's history. Long before modern highways connected the country, the sea provided food, trade, transportation, and economic opportunity. Fishing boats and pearl diving vessels once filled these waters, carrying generations of Qataris whose livelihoods depended entirely on the Gulf. Although today's skyline has transformed the coastline almost beyond recognition, the relationship between the city and the sea remains just as important as it was centuries ago. Walking along the Corniche offers one of the best perspectives of modern Doha. On one side, the calm waters of the bay stretch toward the horizon, while on the other, the city's skyline rises dramatically above the waterfront. Throughout the day, sunlight constantly changes the appearance of the glass towers, creating reflections that shift with every passing hour. By evening, thousands of lights illuminate the buildings, giving the entire waterfront a completely different atmosphere. One of the most recognizable sights along the bay is the collection of traditional wooden dhow boats anchored near the shoreline. These handcrafted vessels once formed the backbone of Qatar's maritime economy, transporting fishermen, pearl divers, and merchants across the Arabian Gulf. Today, many have been carefully preserved and converted into sightseeing boats, allowing visitors to experience Doha from the water while maintaining a direct connection to the country's seafaring heritage. A cruise across the bay provides a unique perspective on the city. From the water, Doha's skyline appears even more impressive, with its towers rising above the coastline in every direction. The contrast between centuries-old wooden dhows and contemporary skyscrapers tells the story of Qatar's transformation more effectively than almost anywhere else in the city. Both belong to the same landscape, representing different chapters of the country's history that now exist side by side. The Corniche is much more than a scenic destination. It functions as one of Doha's largest public gathering spaces, welcoming people from every part of the city. Early in the morning, runners and cyclists take advantage of the cooler temperatures, while families arrive later in the day to enjoy parks, playgrounds, and open green spaces overlooking the water. During the evening, thousands of people stroll along the promenade, creating a relaxed atmosphere that has become part of everyday life in the capital. Several of Doha's most important landmarks are located along or near the waterfront. The Museum of Islamic Art stands on its own purpose-built island extending into the bay, while nearby parks, cultural spaces, and public plazas provide opportunities for residents to enjoy outdoor concerts, exhibitions, and community events throughout the year. Together, these spaces have transformed the waterfront into one of the city's cultural centers rather than simply a scenic coastline. The Corniche also demonstrates how carefully Doha has planned its public spaces. Wide pedestrian walkways, landscape gardens, cycling paths, shaded seating areas, and convenient access to transportation make the waterfront welcoming for people of all ages. Whether someone arrives for exercise, sightseeing, photography, or simply to watch the sunset, the area offers an environment designed to encourage people to spend time outdoors whenever the weather allows. As temperatures begin to fall after sunset, the atmosphere changes once again. Families gather on the lawns, couples walk along the waterfront, children play in nearby parks, and cafes become increasingly busy as residents enjoy the cooler evening air. The skyline reflects across the calm waters of the bay while illuminated dhow boats slowly cross the harbor, creating one of the most memorable views anywhere in the Gulf. Perhaps nowhere else in Doha captures the city's identity quite so completely. The Corniche brings together the sea that made Qatar possible, the skyline that represents its extraordinary transformation, and the public spaces where everyday life continues to unfold. It reminds visitors that although Doha has become one of the world's most modern capitals, its story has always begun at the water's edge, where generations of Qataris first built a community that would eventually grow into the remarkable city that stands here today. As the sun begins to set over the Arabian Gulf, Doha gradually takes on an entirely different atmosphere. The intense heat of the afternoon gives way to cooler evening temperatures, encouraging people to step outside and enjoy one of the most pleasant parts of the day. Offices begin to empty, families leave their homes, restaurants welcome their busiest hours, and parks, waterfront promenades, and public spaces slowly fill with residents who have been waiting for the evening to begin. Unlike many cities where activity slows after the workday ends, Doha becomes increasingly lively as darkness falls. The climate has shaped daily routines for generations, making the evening the preferred time for social gatherings, outdoor walks, and family activities. It is during these hours that many residents experience the city at its most relaxed, when the pace becomes less focused on work and more centered on spending time with family and friends. The city's skyline undergoes a dramatic transformation after sunset. Throughout West Bay, office towers and hotels illuminate their facades with carefully designed lighting, creating reflections across the calm waters of Doha Bay. Every building contributes its own architectural identity, turning the skyline into one of the most recognizable nighttime cityscapes in the Middle East. From almost anywhere along the waterfront, the view changes minute by minute as the lights shimmer across the Gulf. The Corniche becomes one of the busiest places in the city during the evening. Families stroll along the waterfront, children ride bicycles and scooters through nearby parks, runners take advantage of the cooler temperatures, and countless residents simply enjoy sitting along the shoreline while looking across the bay. The atmosphere remains calm despite the number of people, creating a sense of shared public space where individuals from many different backgrounds naturally come together. Restaurants and cafes become the center of social life after dark. Whether in Souq Waqif, Qatar Cultural Village, the Pearl, or one of the city's many neighborhoods, outdoor terraces quickly fill with people enjoying long dinners and conversations that often continue for several hours. Meals are rarely rushed, particularly on weekends, when extended families gather around large tables while friends meet after work to relax and catch up. Dining is viewed not simply as eating, but as an important opportunity to strengthen relationships and enjoy each other's company. Luxury hotels also play an important role in Doha's evening life. Many offer rooftop restaurants and observation lounges overlooking the skyline and the Arabian Gulf, attracting both visitors and local residents. These venues provide some of the city's most spectacular nighttime views while serving as gathering places for business meetings, family celebrations, and social events that continue late into the evening. Cultural life remains active well after sunset as well. Qatar Cultural Village frequently hosts concerts, art exhibitions, film screenings, theatrical performances, and public festivals that bring together residents from across the city. Museums often organize evening programs, while public spaces host seasonal events celebrating literature, music, and traditional Qatari culture. These activities reflect the country's broader effort to invest not only in infrastructure, but also in cultural life and education. During the holy month of Ramadan, Doha's evenings become even more distinctive. Once the daily fast ends at sunset, families gather for iftar meals, restaurants fill almost immediately, and neighborhoods become noticeably more active. Decorative lanterns illuminate public spaces, shopping districts remain busy late into the night, and community events continue well into the early morning hours. For many residents, Ramadan evenings represent one of the most meaningful periods of the year, combining family traditions, generosity, and community gatherings in a way that transforms the rhythm of the entire city. One aspect of Doha that surprises many first-time visitors is how comfortable and secure the city feels after dark. Families with young children continue enjoying parks late into the evening. People walk along the Corniche without concern, and public spaces remain lively while maintaining a calm and respectful atmosphere. This sense of safety encourages residents to spend more time outdoors, making the evening one of the most active parts of daily life throughout much of the year. Experiencing Doha after sunset reveals a side of the city that many daytime visitors never fully appreciate. During the day, attention naturally focuses on architecture, museums, and impressive urban development. At night, however, the city's true personality begins to emerge through its people. Families gathering for dinner, friends meeting over Arabic coffee, children playing in waterfront parks, and neighbors enjoying the cooler evening air all demonstrate that beneath Doha's modern skyline lies a community whose strongest traditions continue to revolve around hospitality, family, and shared public life. Although Doha's remarkable transformation was made possible by oil and natural gas, the country's long-term vision extends far beyond its energy resources. Over the past several decades, Qatar has invested heavily in education, scientific research, technology, healthcare, sustainability, and innovation, recognizing that future prosperity will depend not only on natural wealth, but also on knowledge, creativity, and human potential. Throughout the city, this ambition can be seen in projects designed not simply for today's needs, but for generations yet to come. One of the clearest examples of this vision is Education City, a vast academic and research campus developed by the Qatar Foundation. Covering several thousand acres on the western side of Doha, the campus brings together internationally recognized universities, research institutes, technology laboratories, medical facilities, libraries, and innovation centers within a single integrated community. Students from across the Middle East, Europe, Asia, Africa, and the Americas come here to study subjects ranging from medicine and engineering to international affairs, computer science, architecture, journalism, and business. Rather than creating a traditional university district, Education City was designed as an ecosystem where education, research, entrepreneurship, and industry could develop together. Professors collaborate with scientists, students work alongside technology companies, and research projects often address practical challenges related to healthcare, renewable energy, artificial intelligence, environmental sustainability, and urban development. This close relationship between education and innovation has become one of the defining features of Qatar's strategy for the future. Scientific research now plays an increasingly important role in the country's development. Laboratories throughout Doha are conducting research in medicine, biotechnology, environmental science, robotics, cybersecurity, and advanced engineering. These efforts are supported by substantial national investment aimed at encouraging discoveries that can contribute not only to Qatar, but also to the wider scientific community. In many ways, Doha is attempting to position itself as a regional center for knowledge and research rather than relying solely on its role as an energy producer. Healthcare has evolved alongside these ambitions. Modern hospitals equipped with advanced medical technology now serve both local residents and international patients, while specialized research centers continue expanding their work in areas such as cancer treatment, genetics, sports medicine, and preventive healthcare. Investments in medical education have also helped attract highly qualified physicians and researchers from around the world, further strengthening the country's healthcare system. Innovation is equally visible throughout the city's infrastructure. Doha has embraced digital technology across many aspects of daily life, from government services and public transportation to healthcare appointments and educational systems. Residents can complete many administrative tasks online, while smart technologies continue improving traffic management, public services, and urban planning. These systems are designed not simply to increase efficiency today, but to support the continued growth of the city in the decades ahead. Environmental sustainability has become another major priority despite the country's challenging climate. Building a modern city in the desert requires careful management of water, energy, and natural resources. As a result, many of Doha's newest developments incorporate energy-efficient construction, advanced cooling systems, recycled water for landscaping, and technologies that reduce overall environmental impact. Public parks, green spaces, and tree planting initiatives have also become increasingly important as the city works to improve quality of life while adapting to the realities of its environment. The development of Lusail City demonstrates how these ideas are being applied on an urban scale. Planned as one of the most technologically advanced cities in the region, Lusail incorporates smart infrastructure, sustainable transportation, energy-efficient buildings, extensive public parks, and mixed-use neighborhoods designed to reduce dependence on private vehicles. Rather than simply expanding Doha outward, Lusail represents an attempt to rethink how future cities in the Gulf can function in a more sustainable and efficient way. Hosting the 2022 FIFA World Cup also accelerated investment in infrastructure that continues benefiting the country long after the tournament concluded. New metro lines, expanded highways, upgraded airports, modern stadiums, public parks, and transportation networks were designed not only for a single international event, but as permanent improvements supporting Qatar's long-term development. Many of these facilities now serve residents every day, becoming part of the city's ordinary infrastructure rather than temporary attractions. Perhaps the most remarkable aspect of Doha's future is the confidence with which it continues to evolve. In many cities, rapid growth creates uncertainty about what comes next. In Doha, however, development is guided by long-term national planning that looks decades ahead. New neighborhoods continue to emerge, educational institutions expand, research projects multiply, and investments increasingly focus on preparing younger generations for a world where innovation and knowledge will become as valuable as natural resources. Looking across Doha today, it becomes clear that the city's greatest construction project is not any individual skyscraper, museum, or stadium. It is the ongoing effort to build a society capable of thriving long after the era of oil and natural gas has passed. That ambition gives modern Doha a unique sense of purpose, transforming it from a city shaped by extraordinary wealth into one that is increasingly defined by its investment in education, technology, culture, and the people who will shape its future. Every city leaves visitors with certain expectations before they arrive, and Doha is no exception. Many people imagine a place defined almost entirely by luxury hotels, futuristic skyscrapers, and immense wealth. While those elements are certainly part of the city's identity, they represent only a fraction of what first-time visitors actually experience. After spending even a few days in the Qatari capital, many discover that the city's most memorable qualities are often the ones they never expected. One of the first surprises is the remarkable sense of safety. Doha consistently ranks among the safest cities in the world, and that reputation quickly becomes evident in everyday life. Families comfortably walk through parks long after sunset, children play in public spaces well into the evening, and people from every part of the world move around the city with a strong sense of security. Whether exploring the Corniche late at night, dining outdoors, or using public transportation, visitors often notice how calm and orderly the atmosphere feels throughout the city. Another unexpected impression is the city's extraordinary cleanliness. Streets, public parks, beaches, metro stations, and shopping districts are maintained with exceptional care. Landscaping is carefully managed despite the desert climate. Public facilities are kept in excellent condition, and attention to detail can be seen almost everywhere. This commitment to maintaining public spaces reflects a broader emphasis on creating a comfortable environment for residents and visitors alike. Many travelers are also surprised by the diversity of the people they meet. Although Doha is the capital of Qatar, conversations throughout the city reveal an international community unlike almost anywhere else in the region. It is entirely normal to meet professionals from Europe, entrepreneurs from Asia, healthcare workers from Africa, students from North America, and families from every corner of the Middle East, all living and working in the same neighborhoods. This multicultural environment gives Doha a global character while allowing each community to preserve its own traditions and identity. The climate often becomes another unforgettable part of the experience. During the summer, daytime temperatures can be intense enough to reshape the rhythm of everyday life. Outdoor activities are carefully planned around the cooler hours of the morning and evening, while modern architecture, shaded walkways, and air-conditioned public spaces help residents adapt to one of the hottest inhabited environments on Earth. Visitors quickly realize that understanding Doha also means understanding how the climate has influenced everything from urban planning to daily routines. Another aspect that surprises many people is the balance between modernity and tradition. Visitors may spend the morning inside one of the world's most technologically advanced metro systems, the afternoon exploring a centuries-old market, and the evening watching traditional dhow boats sail beneath a skyline filled with contemporary architecture. Rather than separating these experiences, Doha allows them to exist naturally within the same city, creating a sense of continuity that becomes more noticeable with each passing day. Local customs and etiquette also leave a lasting impression. Respect, politeness, and hospitality remain central values in Qatari society, and visitors often notice how warmly they are welcomed. Learning a few simple cultural customs, dressing respectfully in public places, and showing consideration for local traditions are generally met with genuine appreciation. These small gestures often lead to meaningful conversations and memorable encounters that allow visitors to experience a more personal side of the country. Many travelers expect Doha to be dominated entirely by luxury, yet they often leave remembering something quite different. They remember families gathering in parks after sunset, children playing along the waterfront, conversations over Arabic coffee in Souq Waqif, quiet moments overlooking the Arabian Gulf, and the genuine hospitality shown by people they met along the way. These ordinary experiences reveal a city whose greatest strengths extend far beyond its impressive architecture or economic success. Perhaps the biggest surprise is how approachable Doha feels. Despite its global reputation, the city rarely appears overwhelming. Modern infrastructure makes it easy to navigate. English is widely spoken, public transportation is efficient, and many of the city's most important attractions are located within a relatively compact area. Visitors quickly become comfortable exploring on their own, allowing them to move beyond the major landmarks and experience the quieter moments that often become the most memorable parts of any journey. By the end of a visit, many travelers discover that Doha is not simply a showcase of modern development or national wealth. It is a city that has carefully balanced rapid progress with cultural continuity, international diversity with strong local identity, and ambitious planning with a genuine commitment to quality of life. Those unexpected combinations are often what remain in people's memories long after they have returned home. When people around the world think about Doha, they often focus on the images that appear most frequently in headlines and travel brochures. They remember the dramatic skyline rising above the Arabian Gulf, the luxury hotels, the impressive museums, and the remarkable wealth that transformed a small coastal settlement into one of the most modern capitals on Earth. Those images are certainly real, yet they tell only part of the story. The true character of Doha is found not simply in what has been built, but in the vision that continues to shape the city every single day. Unlike many great capitals whose identities were formed over hundreds or even thousands of years, Doha has experienced an extraordinary transformation within the lifetime of a single generation. People who remember dusty streets, traditional fishing boats, and quiet waterfront neighborhoods have also witnessed the construction of one of the world's most advanced metro systems. Internationally recognized universities, award-winning museums, championship sports venues, and entire districts that seemed impossible to imagine only a few decades ago. Few places anywhere in the world have changed so dramatically in such a short period of time. Yet despite this remarkable pace of development, Doha has not attempted to erase its past. Traditional markets remain active in the center of the city. Dhow boats continue to sail across the bay. Arabic coffee is still served according to customs that have existed for generations, and hospitality remains one of the strongest values in everyday life. Modern architecture may dominate the skyline, but beneath it lies a society that continues to respect the traditions upon which the country was built. Perhaps that balance between heritage and ambition is what makes Doha so distinctive. The city does not present history as something separate from modern life, nor does it view progress as a reason to abandon cultural identity. Instead, both exist together in a way that feels natural. A visitor can spend the morning inside one of the world's most advanced research campuses, the afternoon exploring a traditional marketplace, and the evening watching wooden dhow boats glide beneath illuminated skyscrapers without ever feeling that these experiences belong to different worlds. Doha is also redefining what success means for a modern city. Its greatest ambitions no longer revolve solely around energy exports or economic growth. Increasingly, the country's investments focus on education, scientific research, healthcare, sustainability, technology, culture, and the development of future generations. These priorities suggest that Qatar understands one important reality. Natural resources created the opportunity, but knowledge, innovation, and human potential will determine the future. For visitors, this becomes one of the city's most lasting impressions. The architecture may be spectacular, the museums may be world-class, and the skyline may be unforgettable, but what often remains in memory are the quieter moments. Watching the sunset over Doha Bay, sharing Arabic coffee in Souq Waqif, hearing the evening call to prayer echo across the city, seeing families gather along the Corniche, or simply experiencing the warmth with which strangers welcome guests into their country often leaves a deeper impression than any landmark ever could. Every great city tells a story about the people who built it, and Doha is no exception. Behind every modern district stands the determination of generations who once depended on fishing, pearl diving, and trade to survive along the shores of the Arabian Gulf. Behind every ambitious development project lies a national vision that looks decades into the future while continuing to respect the traditions of the past. It is this combination of resilience, confidence, and long-term planning that has allowed Doha to become one of the most remarkable urban transformations of the 21st century. Perhaps that is the most important lesson this city offers. Wealth alone cannot create identity, culture, or a sense of belonging. Those qualities emerge through people, traditions, education, shared values, and the choices a society makes about its future. Doha's story is ultimately not about skyscrapers, luxury, or even extraordinary economic success. It is the story of a nation that used an unexpected opportunity to reinvent itself while preserving the customs and principles that had guided its people for generations. For that reason, Doha is remembered not simply as one of the richest cities in the world, but as one of the most fascinating. It demonstrates how quickly a nation can transform when it combines vision with determination, while also reminding us that meaningful progress does not require leaving history behind. Instead, the strongest future is often built by understanding where a society began, respecting the traditions that shaped it, and having the confidence to imagine what comes next.